We made it. We made it through another week. And this is pretty much the last week of the year. I mean, not quite. We still have a couple of days left. But next Saturday is gonna be next year. How is it almost 2026? What happened? Why are we here? Just to suffer? Some of us are, clearly. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Another year. And what happened? I don't know. A bunch of nonsense, mostly, I would say. But here we are, suffering from it. Oh boy. I had to admit, I've been feeling a potential crash out for like weeks at this point. Is it gonna happen today? I'm actually not sure. It could. On one hand, I wanna kinda save it for New Year's because it's gonna be an absolute catharsis, but at the same time, if I can make it wait, is it really a crash out? Or am I just being jaded? I guess I'm not sure. I want to say kinda both, but at the same time I'm not sure. I think it makes sense, but eh, eh. I'm just disappointed in general, I guess. Okay, do we have some music? What about ultra relaxing JRPG music? Focus, study, work, and chill. Volume 8. Is it fine if I start from 8? I hope so. It's kinda low. I want to have the music really low. I think it's best if we do that. Brother. What is this from? This sounds kinda nice. Hold up, I kinda like this. It's from Vanguard Bandits. I'm not sure, looks like kinda mecha, kinda anime. Pretty cool. Despite me saying all the time that I like RPGs, there's a billion of them I don't know. Please understand. There's a lot of them. I think that's normal. Yeah, that sounds nice. Kinda like it. It's kinda chill. Hey, they didn't lie to me. For once. Ah, so lovely. It feels so great to be alive. Speaking of feeling alive, I guess. It is insane to me that they kinda released the files, but they're extremely redacted, but they're extremely easy to unredact. I just don't know what's going on anymore. It is kinda funny. It's just kinda funny to me, what can you say? But I don't have any of that for today. Even though I'm quite interested in that, I'm waiting for people more capable than me to go through that, because I actually have no idea. It's so much information, I'm just a tiny guy here. It would take me, I don't know, weeks to go through everything, and I wanted to parse everything. Most of the stuff I just don't really know too much about. I guess at this point I'm just a bottom feeder. You cannot blame me. You cannot blame me. Full on React slop in that regard. I'd rather have articles and not videos for that. For obvious reasons. But I cannot really criticize people that want the videos. I think it's completely understandable. More than justified, even. What do we have for today? Well, we have some really strange stuff that's been going on recently. Hold up. Some of my browser stuff is actually reloading itself. I don't know what happened. And this is really funny to me. This is something I've been complaining about for a little bit. Justice, I guess, but in the same realm. Which is, I mean, it would be funny if it wasn't so annoying and depressing. But hey, that's the current state of YouTube. Being annoying and depressing. Great. Great meme. So let's start with YouTube stuff. Despite something happening this week with a kicker streamer, what was his name again? Like clavicular or something like that, right? Sounded like a bone. And he ran over a guy that was trying to attack him on his car? I don't really know what happened with that. I think the guy got banned. If it wasn't self-defense, I don't know that one, man. People are really scared of violence. Any kind of violence nowadays. I'm like, okay, sure, but I'm gonna say that self-defense might be justified. Blame me if you must. Let me bring up the browser. I think we have a nice a nice string of stuff for today. I could be completely wrong, but it seems reasonable. So we have here, is this alright? This is not alright. Oh, brother, hold up. Because last time we were reading that big article, and I didn't fix my browser at the end. Look, I want like an hour and a half overtime. I was tired, okay? Ah, yapping. It takes energy, okay? It takes energy. So we have this tweet here from Sean. Attention! Some BS. I would say this is more than some. Several YouTubers, Smogalana, vtuber, and Chilser streams. Notice something. All of them are tubers. I thought their videos covered my new video about the dangers of child dating apps. We talked a little bit about that a couple of weeks ago. I'm pretty sure she goes far more in depth than I did. And federal removed from YouTube for violating TOS, while my original video is still up on YouTube. Also, something to be noted here. I'm pretty sure her video is being suppressed right now. I don't know if it is a holiday season or whatnot, but I usually get her in my recommendations. I haven't followed her in like 5 years. I didn't see this video. I only knew about this video because this controversy happened, which is not ideal. Then again, it's still YouTube being YouTube. The request for approval having ignored. This completely insane and unfair. As the creator of the original video, I'm calling for YouTube to remove the TOS strike against these YouTubers, as well as any others who have been hit for covering my video. Let them cover it. It is fair use and not against TOS. Add Team YouTube, add YouTube creators. Please fix your broken system. Stop using AI to determine these things. Artificial intelligence or actually Indians? Why not both? None of them work anyway. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And we have here a tweet from Smogalana. This is even horrifying. Shoonhead react. Apparently, VTubers reacting to Shoonhead has become some sort of meta, which is kind of funny to me. I can't understand why. I don't think it's wrong necessarily, but I can understand why. I'm formally appealing the community guidelines strike issued against my video at Team YouTube. After reviewing YouTube's child safety policy, I believe this content was flagged in error, as it is a transformative commentary and educational critique regarding public safety. I mean, yeah, why would you suppress something like this? Well, we live in modern society. Even mentioning bad stuff happening is saying as you agreeing with the bad stuff, which is sure nonsense to me. And from vtuber, also known as Mario Yume, I don't know about this individual. Hello Team YouTube, I'm submitting a formal appeal regarding the community guidelines strike issued against my video. Upon careful review of YouTube's child safety policy, I believe this enforcement action was applied in error, as the content in question constitutes fair use, I assume. It's pretty cookie cutter kind of reply here. Dating apps for kids? More likely than you think. Just the destroyer, the same thing happened to me at times. And this is the next to it, right? Yep. On a side note, although my video was not removed, stop the video. I don't like the autoplay. And it doesn't matter if I stop it or not, it always comes back. It's awful. Although my video was not removed, it is not reaching as many people as usual, and nothing I've ever seen before in the history of my channel. It's just been around for more than a decade. I assume it's due to posting too close to Christmas and people being busy with the holidays, or people just don't want to watch a video about this topic. Understandable, have a nice day. It is kind of a heavy topic, to be fair. We only read through a single article, and I would say it was pretty bad already, just on its own. Not something I would recommend, unless you have an arrow in your stomach. Because it's not just these apps existing, it's just how they're not banned. It's not something that I usually propose banning stuff. I think this makes a lot of sense, right? Why would you have dating apps for kids, especially when they call them Tinder for kids, which it's not dating app, it's hookup app, which is absolutely dystopian. When they have been criticized for what, 6 years, close to 7 at this point, for being really unsafe for minors, because anybody could go there. Well, yeah, of course they can. That's like a honeypot, but without the actual part of the tie-up? I don't know how to explain this. You usually will do that to try and get the predators, right? I didn't think they were doing that. Is this Roblox? Kinda feels like it. Because of this other stuff, I suspect it has been suppressed. Meanwhile, the YouTubers that react to it are just having their videos completely outright removed. According to the person whose screen recorded this, Pick 2, my videos in restricted mode, essentially shadow banned. A lot of stuff is in restricted mode, which at the end of the day doesn't mean a whole lot. I think restricted mode is something you need to activate on your own, it's not on by default. I don't know about restricted mode if you're browsing without an account. I haven't done that in way too long. I'm also pretty sure you cannot do that in several countries nowadays, because you need to prove yourself as 16 plus. So therefore you need an account. So therefore, I guess it's not YouTube, it's government tube now. Essentially shadow ban, which is completely out of a creator's control. Nothing I can do about that. I didn't even know this was a thing. Completely out of a creator's control, not entirely true. But you will need to heavily police your content more than the normal YouTuber stuff, which is... what else can you do? You cannot even use the actual words, okay? You need to use unalive. You need to use struggle snuggle. You need to use fans of the playground instead of calling a spade a spade, because YouTube's algorithm is gonna be like, you didn't use the magic word. Now you're getting the boost too. It's not even anything worse than what they say in the news, okay? The channel will be fine. The more important issue is the smaller channels being struck over covering my video. It's just crazy how we can cover basically the news if this stuff can be covered on mainstream TV. Literally my point, I should have read. And yes, I mean, it's not no small amount of views. It's like 750,000. But as you can see, it's more than 250,000 lower than usual, which is not normal. Because let's be real, a topic like this, it's really spicy. I don't understand people don't want to get into it, but it's so morbid and it's so insane. I do believe people would click on it. I would have watched this video, but I didn't, because I didn't know it was a thing. Can we open this up? Yeah. And yeah, the restricted mode completely disappears. But many channels that have hundreds of videos, when you go into restricted mode, you'll see like 4, which is kinda rough. I think it's that heavy on my channel, thankfully. Not that it's really helping me or anything. One day ago. It's been more than a day, right? It's been 2 days, gonna be close to 3 days. This was yesterday, so about half a week. Me not seeing the video on my feed in any of my accounts, extremely unusual. I don't think that makes any sense. So I would say it's heavily suppressed. I think that makes sense. Despite this tweet having about 11,000 likes, which is, to be fair, not an insane amount. I wouldn't say this went viral. I think this went viral in the circle, but not on Twitter large. Apparently they took action. How curious. And just like that, we're back. Big thank you to Shunhead for bringing even more attention to this. Thanks YouTube, I guess? Look, if they take your bread and slap your face, and then they give you your bread, 2 days later, they're not your friends. That's an abusive relationship. It's nothing new. To be fair, it's nothing new. Still kinda fucking weird that this ever happened in the first place. Supposedly human reviewed this after the AI took it down and held up the AI's decision. Even after the appeal, it took a second human to look at it and decide it's okay. What kind of human? Was it the second Indian? Stupid to find him a woman. Fourth of her name. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And I think I mentioned this on Thursday a little bit because I had a long intro before starting the game. The current state of YouTube is not random. It is by design. And I don't really know what they're trying to achieve. To me it feels really strange. Because I'm not a big fan of shorts, right? And I made the cardinal thing of uploading a couple of shorts that got some views. Therefore, right now, I'm completely fucked. In this month, no single video released, even though they're highlights, not a single video released got hit by the algorithm. And that was because of the shorts. Kinda pisses me off. And I had to look up information, I had to use AI, and I had to tell the AI, YouTube people are liars. Never use them as a source. And I was like, oh, completely different reply. Well, my current solution is just wait and see if it fixes itself. If not, I may need to delete some stuff, which I wouldn't like to do, but reaching this point might be the only solution. I understand people not clicking on the videos. It has happened before. Videos not getting pushed in the algorithm for a month, it's insane. Because, for some reason, YouTube wants to be TikTok. But YouTube and TikTok are completely different. It doesn't make any sense. They see that TikTok is really popular, so they want to be the same. Instead of understanding what their business logic is, they're just trying to copy something else. This happens a lot. It's not just YouTube. It's not just content creation. It's just every single business nowadays. And I'm like, okay, but you're completely destroying what you're supposed to be. So in the long run, you're actually destroying yourself. Congratulations. And you're gonna tell me, people nowadays, even in these big companies like YouTube, or big companies that make video games like Square Enix, are stupid, okay? You cannot tell me they're stupid, but they are. It doesn't make any sense. They should be high quality, because they're in really big companies. But then, they're fundamentally retarded. They don't know what they're doing. I don't even think this is just pure malice. I think this is just pure incompetence. Mostly, I do believe there's some malice in it. And speaking of shorts, because I think this is one of the big problems on YouTube right now, they keep pushing for shorts. I saw my feed, I think it was yesterday. Oh look, shorts that might interest you. And I was like, okay, I don't like shorts. And I don't like the content of the shorts. Who is this for? It's insane. I've seen like pretty much 3 types of shorts. First, something like being an 8 to 10 minute video with the usual things that you didn't know, curiosities about this game. But they just do it really fast as a short. Those are interesting. I would say those are probably the only kind of shorts I like. I've been recommended a bunch of stuff for Dark Souls because a friend of mine is just starting to play Dark Souls on Elden Ring, so he shares them to me. That's the main problem. I don't think the shorts are fine. They say shorts are supposed to be viral Twitch clips, and I look at them and I'm like, but nothing happened. Where's the funny? Where's the entertainment value? Did you expect people to stay put through this 1 minute of nothing happening? And I thought my content was made. This is insane. This is surely insane to me. They're just, wow, what the hell is that? What happened? In an insanely deadpan tone. More than what I use, while trying to be extremely sarcastic. Where's the funny? Where's the funny? And most importantly, what we find on shorts is AI slop. Oh look, these anime characters in real life, I don't care. It looks ugly. I don't care. Anime is anime, okay? Don't try to grab the sweetness of the 2D with your grimy little hands. But people scroll through that, oh my god, it's so fun. I was like, no, it isn't. Even my mother fell from it weeks ago. She was like, oh, do you know? They're making a live action Massacre movie, and I was like, I just don't believe you. If that was the case, I would know earlier than you. It was AI. It was AI. Sure, I will say, it's not badly made, but I still don't understand the appeal of the content. Sure, the aesthetics are appealing to some extent. What is the substance? And most of these sites are just filled with bots. So we're reaching a breakpoint. If you thought dead internet theory was bad, you haven't seen anything yet. You will see the internet being bots consuming AI-generated content. Where are the humans? Well, I don't know. Is there intelligent life in the outer space? What about on this planet? I have no idea. It's looking grim, and this is not me being against AI, okay, as a tool. I do believe that AI has a lot of potential, and I've used AI to great effect. But you're gonna just say, AI is the solution to everything. More on that later, by the way. I have a Forbes article about AI toys. What? I have no idea. Almost as stupid as the manual vacuum cleaner that had AI. Absolutely insane. But I guess not everything is doom and gloom. Sometimes you have a silver lining, a glimpse of hope, a ray of light amidst the darkness. Thanks, Japan, very cool. Japan's Prime Minister assembled an expert panel yesterday to discuss Japanese content overseas. And I scrolled this on my timeline and I had to go back because it was like, hold up, what is going on? Hey, I know this guy. What is this guy doing here? And I guess it makes sense to have such a massive artist as Demon Kogure, which is quite interesting. People were memeing on this guy, and I'm like, you're memeing on Demon Kaka? You have to know that this is a pretty formal attire, okay? It looks really normal. What can you say? I'm a big fan of Demon. I'm a big fan of Sekimatsu. Probably my favorite band nowadays. Prime Minister Takaichi can summon Lord Demon to the Prime Minister office. Do you know Lord Demon? I do know him. And it's kinda funny. He sounds so normal here. It's really strange. Because this guy is extremely over the top. But I guess he can also be professional, which is completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They're still kinda funny.
今日、総理官邸へと入ったデーモン閣下。
Just a very normal good morning. Well, I guess that's fine. He can also act human sometimes. I think that's okay. I think that's completely fine. I thought it was really funny. I also seen the memes. The stand user could be anyone. Look, Look, he has melted down over the years, okay? He almost looks normal. That's what happens when you have a heavy metal band heavily inspired by kabuki, I suppose. And we also have this article from, well, just from like an interview or something, from Hideaki Anno. We want to adapt anime for Westerners. They must adapt to us. Finally! I mean, I guess they can say it. God forbid you say something like that in the West. Young Kansas Evangelion director Hideaki Anno has said he doesn't make content for overseas market, and as such, Westerners have to adapt to his work. In an interview with Anno and Forbes Japan, it's making the rounds after comments made by the famed director, who responded to the massive surge in the global market for Japanese media like anime, manga, and more. To put things into perspective, the global market for Japanese content has nearly tripled in the last decade, which is way more than you probably expected, reaching 5.8 trillion yen in 2023, roughly 371 million USD, surpassing even Japan's semiconductor and steel industries. This hasn't phased Anno, though, who apparently never thinks of the Western market. And I don't think you should. This is pretty much what Nagoshi said back in the day. You're making Japanese stuff for Japanese people, and that's fine. If people from outside can appreciate it, that's good, but they're never the target. There's nothing wrong with that. They understand their priorities. But of course you have people shitting themselves being, but what about me? What about you? You don't matter. Get a hold of yourself. The production process hasn't changed that much, consciously speaking, Anno said. The environment might have changed, but I myself have never consciously made works with overseas audiences in mind. I would say some studios though, but it's usually not good trying to appeal to, I do believe, Chinese censorship. A big deal was, in the season, One Punch Man, selling that athletic chick, censored, you can't have the bloomers, they have to be short. It's not the only problem that season is having, oh my god. I thought One Punch Man was well beloved in Japan. This treatment is just insane. And of course people are attacking the likes of, what's his name, cheaper reviews. It's your fault. The guy was like, I did not push the director to make this piece of shit, okay? Yet here we are. You gotta make domestic works. Many companies are quick to say overseas, but I don't aim for that myself. I think that makes sense. Anno said that his basic stance is to focus, first and foremost, on what resonates domestically, and what people here find interesting. To that, Anno said that people overseas find interesting, that's a bonus. And that's the correct train of thought, in my opinion. If you try to appeal to the West, or if you try to appeal to overseas, global market and whatnot, you're just doing literally the same as everybody else. That's not interesting. You should be making unique stuff. Why is that? Because it's unique. Unique is interesting. It's not for everyone, but it's good. I don't understand, why do people like JRPGs? Because they're different. That's what will make them interesting. It's the same logic. But now you have just a billion midwits in modern society nowadays. Everything has to be the same, everything has to be Disney. Not even classic Disney. Modern Disney, which is an entirely different can of worms. For a number of his works, like Shin Evangelion, the movie, Anno has acted as the original creator while handling production and even distribution and enhanced promotion. Yes, so no one else could interfere with his work. It's a lot of work, but oftentimes I think it's the correct way of doing things. I do feel that sometimes, right? Even though I'm not a huge anime director or anything like that. But it's that train of thought of, okay, the only way for this to be done properly is if I do it myself. So you end up with a lot of work. And said, even with full control of his work, he wasn't thinking about overseas audiences. Later in the interview, Anno talked up how it's nearly impossible for him to produce work for overseas audiences, because his thoughts are in Japanese, and he can only manage simple greetings in English. You would think knowing languages may be an advantage, and sometimes it is. In this case, I think it helps you protect your works, which is also good. Works created through Japanese thought are, after all, difficult to understand in any language other than Japanese, he said. Visual media has elements like visuals and music, so I think it has fewer language barriers compared to other fields. I don't think it's necessarily difficult to understand just because it's in Japanese. I do agree that Japanese culture is obviously different from Western culture. I wouldn't say it's incompatible. I wouldn't say it's just unfathomable. But you need to invest yourself in wanting to understand it, which a lot of people nowadays don't want to. I had choice words for whether or not he or other Japanese creators can or should adapt the words to suit Western audiences. Dialogue is in Japanese, and it's a drama about people driven by emotions born from Japanese thought. So I believe it can be accepted overseas with those who understand that, but we can't adapt it for them. I'm sorry. But we asked the audience to that to us, and said, literally what it said, not pre-read, I promise. And it makes sense, right? Not because, Japan ichiban. No, but it's reasonable. If you as a Westerner, I mean, an Anglo-side Westerner, I suppose, were to get immersed in some sort of classic Russian literature, you wouldn't understand the context in which such literature was created. It makes sense. You would say the same about literally any country. But I need to provide obvious examples so people understand, right? What about classic Egyptian epics? It's the same. You need to understand the context. You need to understand their culture, at least a little bit, to see where they're coming from. And I don't think that's bad. That's actually good. That's the good multiculturalism, understanding other cultures, not just having a mismatch mix or mesh. I mix them both, funny enough, of people from everywhere and anywhere with no cohesive thought. That's not good. I guess that's also foreshadowing for something we have later. Do you ever creator compare the reaction to video games to anime, how audiences can interact with them, and even their creators? This can still be made with interactivity in mind, but film is one way. Viewers' complaints don't reach the creators. That's just how it is, and so you have to trust the creators when they say, "That's interesting." That's why you think it's fun to stay domestic. Well, it's not only that, right? There's also a huge separation here that a lot of people don't manage. Are you trying to create the art that you want to make? Or are you trying to create a product that people will want to consume? Usually, when you set sail in one of these endeavors, usually a mix of both. You probably want to make something that means something for you, as a meaning, a special feeling, but at the same time, those productions take a lot of money, so it needs to be interesting and palatable enough for people to actually spend money on it. I think it makes total sense. You cannot just have art for the sake of art, but if you just have products for the sake of products, you have Disney. So, two completely different sides of the arts, I suppose. And lastly, Anno even talked about the Studio Ghibli creator Hayao Miyazaki. And he likely doesn't think about Western audiences at all, too. If he does, I don't think he likes them. Studio Ghibli also creates domestically, and I don't think Miyazaki-san gives overseas audiences a single thought, he said. This stuff can be handled later. I agree. Let the business people handle converting the work into a product and selling it. Yeah, I can see that. That's interesting. You go full on with the art for domestic, and then we let the business people do their job. Well, you want this to be a product? Do your part. Sometimes it can also be a little bit dangerous because they could butcher in bunch from it, as we've seen with the dreaded localization. But that's a matter of quality, more than becoming a product. Because I do believe if you had, let's say, video games and anime being properly translated, they would be more appealing than whatever messy political tribble they end up inserting for the West. Because, and it's also one of the main problems here, is that they do not employ usually Japanese people for that. You may have some half people, and that's more than okay. But they usually have Westerners. Younger Westerners with agendas. I'm not a big fan of those, that's for sure. Yet, here we are. We haven't bitched about that for quite some time, but I keep seeing it week in and week out on social media. So it keeps happening, and people... I know I keep mentioning this, right? You have people mentioning, but you need to understand, anime is only cool when it's translated to English. And I'm like, how racist can you be? What a strange thing to say, pal. It's truly insane. I know I joked about this before, but it's the same sentiment as saying something so egregious as, oh, I love anime. If it wasn't for all those Japanese people in them, it's not a bug. It's a feature. It's you that are being retarded. Congratulations, you played yourself. Or then you have extremely racist ideologues that say, yeah, anime's only cool because they copy black aesthetics. And I'm like, black aesthetics? I don't think you people know what you're talking about. Congrats. Also, this anime are only popular with a specific kind of people, I'd say. But that matters not to me, because I do believe still that most older stuff is better than the newer stuff. Even the normie older stuff is better than the newer normie stuff. And speaking of old stuff, I have an interesting article here. Japanese lost media. Gameplay footage of Japanese lost media RPG surfaces after 30 years. Book compiling unreleased material considered for publishing, with permission from original devs. It's been 30 years. What about the copyrights? In the end, I don't know how it works. Into the Magical Kid, a cancelled NES RPG, will possibly be revived as a cancelled book. The gameplay footage has also been released on YouTube. I mean, it looks kinda jank for obvious reasons. It's really pixelated. Not the spreads themselves, but the screenshot. Appeared to turn the castle into the JRPG, Into the Magical Kid into Castle Book has recently been announced on X. The organizers of the project also released never before seen gameplay footage of the now lost prototype version of the game on their YouTube channel. With the permission of the original developers, the team's goal is to create the book featuring the game's concept art, developer interviews, and other unreleased material from Game Spark. Into the Magical Kid is a game developed by Graphic Research for the NES. Title based on a gamebook series of the same name. Interesting, I think that makes sense. Was originally scheduled to be published by IGS in 1993, but was eventually scrapped. According to Famicom.net at the time, it was rumored that the game had already been 90% complete, and there were even flyers and other advertising material being made to accompany the release. However, due to known circumstances, Into the Magical Kid never ended up getting a release. That's so strange, because this doesn't seem to be development hell. Aside from what we know from the already available promotional material scattered throughout the internet, and one YouTube video documenting a short gameplay clip from an old TV show, information about the game is rather scarce. Interestingly, a listing of the game's prototype ROM mysteriously appeared on Yahoo Auctions in 2019, selling for over 1.5 million yen, about 9,600 USD. But, as Famicom.net writes, the successful bidder decided to keep the mythical ROM in their own collection. What an ass. Just copy it and send it to the internet, man. Who cares? We're set to safeguard it from getting illegally distributed and sold. Lame. Lame! Given that the ROM is still in the hands of the information bidder, and its contents are likely never going to be made public, it's regularly considered to be lost media by retro game fans. However, in a strange twist of events, a 7-minute long YouTube video featuring gameplay of Into the Magical Kid was posted on YouTube in December 2025, more than 30 years after the game's planned release, published by an official source with the goal of eventually turning all of the development material into a full concept book. The video showcases clips of gameplay footage recorded on VHS, supposedly at the time of development. Apparently, the organizers of the indie The Magical Kid book adaptation project get the permission from the original development team, Naomi Inoue, the author, Hiroyuki Nakata, the producer, Hiroshi Fuji, character designer, Ichiro Shinosaki, master designer, and Yamashita Yasushi, composer. Who's with Yamashita people and working in all the visuals? That's kinda funny. To release the footage and other related material. Besides the VHS tapes, they also claim they have discovered multiple character design cells, and design illustrations, approximately 50 pieces of concept art, floppy disks containing story outlines, soundtrack demo tapes, and even doujinshi, which were written by development staff right before the planned release of the game. By combining the set materials and conducting interviews with the original creators, the team behind the adaptation project is aiming to revive indie as a concept book. We hope that their efforts gain enough traction for the project to kick off. Clips of the gameplay footage are also planned to be published on YouTube in the future. But due to the game not being finished at the time of recording, many parts of the story have been omitted, which makes total sense. It's kind of interesting. I am a light enjoyer of lost media. I think it's something quite interesting every time I take a look at it. But nowadays, it's still something feasible to research. I don't think it's gonna happen in the future, in the near future even, which is kind of sad, because I'm pretty sure that these people are still around. I mean, it's only been 30 years, but these people will at some point pass away from old age. So you will see some lost media that have really no representatives alive, right? That's kind of sad to think about. But I guess when you think about it, in the great scheme of things, it's not that uncommon. Nowadays we have the internet, which is pretty useful. We have a detailed storage and all that, which is really strong. What about concepts from 2 centuries ago? Completely lost. I don't know, I like video games. I like all video games, I like all RPGs. Funny enough, I do believe if the guy that bought the ROM would release a copy, just a digital copy, people will not only play it, I bet some people will try to finish it. Try to finish the 10% that was missing. That's fun to think about. I also enjoy these strange demos. Ah, the 97 Pokemon Gold demo. And some people just use those to make full games. I think that's cool. As soul, as they say nowadays. And it's not only me that enjoys retro stuff, okay? Young people also agree with me. It's Gen Z. Maybe I'm wrong after all. Maybe I'm wrong. This is from this year, early December, by the way. Why do Gen Z have a growing appetite for retro tech? It pains me to no end to see retro tech in a PSP. Is it really retro? When did it release? I'm not sure. Ah, it's been more than 20 years. It's been more than 20 years, yeah. We think most people would consider this to be retro. Well, it was a really powerful system for its time, to be fair. Gen Z are going retro. People in their teens and early 20s are increasingly turning to old school tech in a bit to unplug from the online world. Is that Gen Z? Hold up. From 13 to 28. Yeah, huh. So, from 97 to 2012, that is. Oh, I thought alphas were a little bit older than this. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, that would be Gen Z. Mr. UK told BBC Scotland News that retro-themed products surged in popularity during its Black Friday event, with total vinyl turntables, Tamagotchis, and disposable cameras among their best sellers. And remember the Tamagotchis, man. Maybe you shouldn't have had the Tamagotchi as such a young kid, because I was not that good at taking care of it, but it was fun. I still remember it, okay? God, I'm so old. I'm ancient. I feel ancient sometimes. Retailers Curious and John Lewis also said that they had seen retro gadgets making a comeback with sales of radios, instant cameras, and alarm clocks showing big jumps. Something I've seen recently on social media, especially Twitter. It's the social media I use. It's something that I find to be quite interesting. Something I agree with a lot. People mentioning the tech from late 90s and to some extent early 2000s, how everything was just transparent plastic. And I'm like, yeah, that was cool. Yeah, that was cool. What happened with that? And some people mentioning, yeah, you cannot implant explosives in them if they're transparent. I'm like, what? I don't think that's the case, but I guess you never know. I never really had a transparent Game Boy. I had the yellow Game Boy Color, which is okay, I guess. At least it was not an ugly color. I don't think Game Boy had any ugly color. Yellow was okay, purple was okay. Purple can be really hit or miss. The teal was also fine. It's fine. Having a nice shape and bright color, so I think it works. But yeah, you can also see the old Macs having transparent cool plastic. That was great. That was great back in the day. I wouldn't mind that making a comeback. That's nice style. There's nothing authentic about having DVDs. Retro tech. Every time I read something like this, I start to feel my white hairs, okay? I actually got a couple of those this past week. And I didn't pull them out, okay? I just trimmed them a little bit. Ah, jeez, I mentioned. While some people scroll endlessly through Netflix in search for their next watch, 15-year-old Declan prefers the more traditional approach of having a DVD in his hands. Say, this is the true way of life, the true retro, reading an ebook. No. I swear to God, if I read something like that, I'm going postal. He grew up surrounded by his grand's collection, and later bought his own after visiting a shop with a friend. This thing has to be like really cheap nowadays, right? Fun stuff. If you're really young, well, first of all, you shouldn't be here. But if you're really young, you should cover your ears. I'm gonna say something really strange, and you couldn't understand this. It's about Christmas. Something that my sister wanted for Christmas was a DVD reader for her computer. It was so difficult to find. It was so difficult to find. We had to go through a specific retailer to get it, and I think the guy could only find one. So yeah, even if you had DVDs written down, it's gonna be kind of rough. I still have my old computer with the DVD reader too. I don't want to throw it away because it can be useful. This is important for me if the cases, he says. There's nothing about really clean cases that I love. Cases are great. Speaking of cases, I do love a lot the old cardboard boxes for video games. Those were really nice. Streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus dominate the market, but the clan says he values ownership. Hey, look at this guy! Are you a danger to society? What do you mean ownership? It's nice to have something young instead of paying for subscriptions all the time, she says. God damn it, this guy is so right. I do hate subscriptions. Why do you have to pay for everything? Why is everything a subscription nowadays? It's insanity to me. How many times they had to mention? I'm still not quite sure about the brand. I do believe it was BMW. Might have been Audi, I'm not quite sure. Subscription. Monthly subscription. For having heated seats. Understanding paying extra for that. Monthly? Nah. Nah, you can't get me. Pay last access to streaming tomorrow and still have my favorite movies ready to watch. And he's right. This week, once again, we've seen servers collapsing. I mean, it was Christmas Eve or early Christmas Day, depending on your part of the world. Ho ho ho! A Christmas miracle! But such a thing has been happening, what, weekly or every other week? I think this guy's onto something. 10 minutes DVDs are a dying way of watching movies, but what makes them cheaper? Yeah, that's what I say. Hey, if it's cheap, why not? I think they're just cool. There's something authentic about having DVDs, he says. These things are generations old. It's nice to have them available. Generations in plural? I don't think so. I mean, DVD technology is not that old, right? DVD technology. Hold up. They're watching VHS here in the early 2000s. Still. Well, it's a little bit older than I expected. Released Japan, the earliest, November 1st, 1996. I don't say it was not really that common until the early 2000s. Yeah, I guess that's a generation and a half. He might be onto something. The rest of the rock will make it feel real. Well, if you're talking about vinyls, they don't sound the same, to be fair. I'm not too much about music, but the experts say so I guess that makes sense. Sol 20 has been collecting vinyl records since 2016. They don't ring on top of your nose. You look like you suck dick. I spent more than 1,000 pounds on vinyls, that's crazy. With new vinyl albums costing about 35 pounds on average, may have seem expensive compared to streaming, but Sol feels it's worth it. It's more authentic sounds, he says. Say even the Zoomers agree. The rest of the record make it feel real. You can hear the difference. It's about having something physical you can look at, instead of just scrolling through your phone mindlessly. For Sol, the appeal goes beyond sound quality. You get the actual cover art, and you put the disc down yourself. It's a hands-on experience, he says. I mean, you can also say half of these things about CDs. CDs are not a higher quality, I feel. That means that vinyl's popularity might not last forever. There's some people that are huge enjoyers of vinyl. Until those people actually die, they will still keep buying the vinyls. For a lot of people, I think vinyl is just a trend, he says. Same way things come and go, like different trends on social media. Once it becomes too expensive, people will click off it, he says. I still collect because I like to have them, and I have the option to listen. No? Physical cameras are timeless. I mean, you also have digital cameras. This is probably the weakest point in this article. Because physical cameras will always be a thing, because photograph will always be a thing, in my opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. But sure, having a camera in the phone is really useful. If you take photographs seriously, you will have an actual camera. Most people instantly reach for their phones to take photos. 21-year-old Helen? Aoi being. It's the blue being. Aoi being. Aoi, no sora. Prefers to live its artistry to traditional cameras. There's something about the quality of them, and the style of photo you get. It's a match compared to your phone, she says. It is true, but unlike everything else mentioned thus far, actual cameras are pretty expensive. I remember last time well, not I, but we were planning on getting my sister an actual camera. And shit expensive. Even if they're digital. Peer pressure with film because you're not going to see the photo straight away. You have to wait. As a novelty of it, she explains. Take my camera to birthdays, holidays, even walks, she says. Aoi being. It's probably not the right pronunciation, I don't care. We list the appeal of traditional cameras. Runs deeper than aesthetics. It's rooted in nostalgia, she says. Yes. Also, if you're running with a Polaroid, which I know a lot of people enjoy, especially in the Americas, after taking the photograph, do not shake it. Despite what you might see in movies, that's bad for the photos, which is fun to think about. that can make it so the ink shakes around, creating a lower quality photograph. Apparently, it's not even warm. I never used any of them, so I wouldn't know. Many people are curious about the experience of using physical cameras because they grew up seeing their parents use them, she says. Gen Z enjoys the novelty of something we don't usually have. It's away from phones and instant gratification. Maybe, and only maybe, I have been too hard on Gen Z. Some of you guys are fine. Physical cameras are timeless. They'll never go out of fashion because past generations relied on them. I mean, it always works, right? I think that's the point. I think it makes sense. It's more dated than any game I've got on my PS5. Well, that's because the PS5 doesn't have any! Sorry to tell you this, kid. The PSP sold 185,000 units in the UK. It was just 4 days in the market in 2005. I thought we were gonna say in total, that would be surprising. Kyle, 21, got a PSP to relive his childhood, enjoying the nostalgic simplicity of gaming, with modern hassles like updates or downloads. I feel justified every single time. It's so annoying. I understand downloads being a thing. I think downloads can be important, updates can be important. Holy shit, we have a massive bug that can break the game. Sure, send the hotfix. Nothing wrong with that. That's not necessarily what's happening. Ah, look! We're shipping out a half-made game. We'll finish it eventually, like 2 years down the line if you're lucky. Okay, but why do I have to pay 80 bucks? Because you're a fucking idiot, that's why. Also, infinite DLC. You thought you paid like 80 bucks for half a game. That's actually incorrect. It's a quarter of a game. We're gonna finish a quarter of the game through updates throughout the years, and the other half we're gonna sell you through DLC. So, despite the game actually fully releasing, like 2 or 3 years later, and the game not being that good, you have to spend like 3 to 4 times the amount you had to pay back in the day. Modern gaming, everyone. I'm sure this is gonna be fine. No, it's not. No, it's not. The PSP is a handheld gaming console made by Sony. The gaming instant hit in the UK. It was introduced in 2005. But was not continued a decade later as technology moved on. It was kind of surprising how the Vita never had any sort of success outside of Japan. It was like a JRPG machine, and that was it. A bit of a shame. It was the first game console that I grew up with. It's a weird feeling. It's like a home comfort, you know? It feels retro, he says. The first game console. My back is arching like this. I need a cane. Oh my god, I feel so old. Back in my day, we used to play with the stickers and stones, okay? I'm not that old, even though I actually played with the stickers and stones. Every time the screen isn't as good, but the buttons aren't as good. It's a lot more unreliable, but that's not the point. I don't know about that. I would say the PSP was actually really reliable, hardware-wise. Do not drop it, for obvious reasons, but I'd say the D-pad was okay. The joystick was small but really functional. The triggers were really nice, and the main 3 buttons on the right were more than okay. If you played it a lot, your circle was probably, I have to say this, not as tall, but that's just because of the overuse. When you play modern PlayStation or Xbox, you can just play it. You need to download the updates. With the PSP, you put a game in and play. Yes. You can also acquire stuff really easily for them. He says, since I got it, I use it the most every day. I've been playing Need for Speed on my PSP. I know people love the Need for Speed. Never played those games. I'm not into racing, only competitive racism. It's more addictive than any game I got on my PS5. I keep saying this. It's just nostalgia. It's like old games because you're old. Well, yes, I'm old, but that doesn't mean the old games are bad. Because if I play an old game for the first time and I think it's better than modern games, it's not nostalgia. I didn't have nostalgia for that game because I've never played such a game. I think that's really easy to understand, right? I don't think I'm making any kind of mistake here with my assessment. And if I keep seeing people going through all games for the first time in recent years, and they're like, oh my god, this game is so good, it's not my bias. All games were really good. Sure, the graphics were limited because, let's be real, 30 years ago, technology was really limited, but the gameplay was really fun. Isn't that the point? Isn't that the point? Nowadays you have too many games being completely obsessed with having photorealism. I do think that's a bad idea. And not because it's necessarily bad aesthetics, but because you're spending a lot of resources into something that doesn't really matter, and it's gonna make the game choppier at the end of the day. I know I didn't bring this up the other day, but GTA 6, it got delayed again. It's gonna be more than 650 gigabytes. That's huge. I don't want to play GTA 6. Ah, look! The condensation in the bottle of beer! Wow, that's crazy. What about the gameplay, though? And I'm not saying it's gonna be a bad game, I just don't know. But I think something like Valheim is much more interesting. For an open world game where you can just craft and build your bases and modify the terrain, it looks really good, just in the game. But at the end of the day, if the game isn't fun, it doesn't matter what you do. Also, you can see some companies going out of their way to completely destroy their traditional aesthetic, trying to appeal to this photorealism. It's not going to work. If you have anime aesthetics for 20 or 30 years, people expect that. You're trying to appeal to normies. It's not going to work. They made a decision already, and they don't like you. But in the streamlined look of early 2000s technology, the PSP resurgence could be seen as just another passing trend. At the same time, you also have people that never stop using the 3DS, which is funny to me. I mean, the Street Pass still works apparently, which is kind of funny. I feel like there's definitely a performative aspect to it, almost like an accessory for some people, he says. For the majority, it's just a fad, a trend, but for people like me, I'll be playing this until it breaks. And that makes sense. All game good. And I wouldn't say that the PSP was the peak of gaming, but technology-wise was pretty good. It had some really nice games here and there. So, yes, I understand the appeal. I did spend a lot of time on my PSP back in the day. Even though I got it kind of late, and I didn't have a lot of games. But you can always acquire it. You can always acquire the games anyway. It pains me to no end to see kids saying, oh look, the PSP, oh it's so retro. Like, no, retro stuff is like the old Game Boy, right? And the NES. The PSP is rather new. It's me. I'm Sanai now. But I do agree with the appreciation of all the stuff, because I do believe it was actually better. And from the older stuff, we just go zooming, I suppose, to the new stuff, and how people have been bitching and moaning about new technologies. Sometimes I understand why, some of the times I'm just asking, why? Why are you bitching here? You're just bitching for the sake of bitching, this is just virtue signaling. And to take a sip. But it's more important than ever to call out developers for egregious AI usage next year, if we want video games to remain interesting. Video games haven't been interesting a long time though. This is just virtue signaling, okay? This is just because fucking Claroscure Expedition 33, the fucking French RPG, apparently already has had some AI generated stuff, which was, as far as I understand it, just a placeholder for something else. They got, not demoted, but they got disqualified from some sort of indie game awards, and people have been bitching about that. Oh, look, it's AI, everything is AI. Oh, people are enjoying this AI slap. I'm like, dude, having like a painting somewhere that was just a placeholder that was generated by AI doesn't mean jack shit about the game. They're pissing me off so much. I do believe we're gonna be playing that next month. Okay? I've been looking at some information, and I do believe I will be able to properly stream the fucking French game. So maybe that's what's coming after Yakuza 3. Wait for it. I don't think it's gonna have the highest quality, but it should be good enough. God, I'm growing so worried of AI. Glints of human creation chipped away at it with just a little string here, or just a couple of voice lines there. Flaws and oddities that aren't the result of a person's error, but a computer that doesn't understand what or why it's wrong in the first place. You're trying to push your morality onto technology. It's not going to work. The technology doesn't care. And funny enough, I do believe that AI can be used to great effect in some of these cases. Hold up. Speaking of AI, I need to bunk a clanker. Bunked! Ready? You're not ready for this. Bunked! Hate the clankers. Not a big fan of the clankers, that's for sure. If you're just a guy, a tiny guy, and you're making a game, you actually don't have a lot of resources. So using AI, to some extent, it would make sense. I would prefer if you paid an artist for the art part. As long as it discloses the use of AI, I think it's mostly okay. As long as the game is priced fairly, it's also okay. Like that, Isekai Guild Adventure demo we tried, which the game is coming out in like a couple of weeks. It looks okay, but I'm not willing to pay like $10 for it, because it's using AI. If it had actual human-sourced pixel art, I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more for it. But it's just my only decision. On top of that, if you want to add voice acting, and you don't have money, and let's be real, getting people to voice act decently might be kind of expensive, might be kind of difficult for just a tiny guy. Using AI, I think it's okay. You had to disclose it, I think that's also fair. I don't see a huge problem with that. I mean, text-to-speech has been a thing for a long time, okay? Do you guys remember those old videos on YouTube which was just text-to-speech? Hell, you could even use, if you had it already, it wouldn't be that expensive to buy for that, just as a business expense. And stuff like Voiceroid or Vocaloid to do the voice acting. I don't know if you need special licenses if it's for a game and you want to sell the game. That has been a thing for a long ass fucking time, okay? This year, it feels like studios have been limit testing exactly what they can get away with, or they can save a few pennies by getting a computer to whip up a counter portrait, or kick mythical sting without us lot at home kicking up too much of a fuss. The worst part, I feel it's working. It's only going to get more egregious. We continue to whip up its currently limited use. I guess that's how people felt back in the day with digital tools for art, which is kind of funny. I understand that the AI is quite different. They have in, I don't know, like something like Photoshop. It is still just a tool at the end of the day. And once again, there are very interesting uses for AI in game development. These people are going to ignore because AI is just like a slur right now. Oh, come on, man. You're so annoying. I myself, I'm not absorbed with dismissive behavior. I'm part of the problem. I've done several demos over the last couple of years that support generative AI for its capsule image and the sort of component to put your game app on the Steam store. One that ultimately isn't all that important to the likes of you and me. Because there are degrees. They're trying to paint everything AI as either white or black. But that's racist, okay? What about yellow? What about red? What about the brown? I don't know what kind of joke I was trying to make. But there are degrees of egregiousness, okay? Using some stuff in a specific context, I think it's a positive. I don't think you will have I was about to say Ubisoft. Ubisoft would do it, right? But you wouldn't have big companies, let's say. I don't remember the name of the company that made the French RPG. What about Larian Studios, for example, right? They've also been in the Anthem Storm recently. I'm not saying they're using AI, I actually don't know, I have no idea. It's not my point. But they wouldn't do something like, okay, AI, make me a dark fantasy western RPG. And then let the AI make it. No. They would use AI as a tool, and they would control that what the AI makes actually works, and that's what they actually need. And nothing wrong with that. For the most part. I would have played several hours of Liar's Bar, a game that utilizes AI voices for its characters. But that at the time, I had it used as a byproduct of a dirt cheap asset flip. What a strange thing to say, right? It's fine if they use it, because the game is in dirt cheap asset flip. So the game is bad, so it's fine if they have bad practices? As part of virtuous handling, this seems kind of weak. But we just happen to be the right amount of stupid fun for a quick late night post-booth endeavor with your Discord pals. And we're forced to asking for the developer to use real voice acting or met with comments such as HEW behavior and Steve. Is this 2016? How did that happen? Nothing has changed, that's funny. I mean, I don't know too much about Liar's Bar, but if they need some voice acting that's closer to text-to-speech, it would make sense to use AI. It's just like newer TTS, and probably better quality. Hey, if you had to use TTS at sometimes for work, it has gotten better, but it was also kinda jank, right? I mean, do you know about those old GPSs? Ooh, no, that's rich with egg. There's a strange downward spiral where people go from brushing off AI's inclusion to actively rallying against people who call out its use. I have to wonder if it's because people don't exactly vibe with having the things they enjoy criticized for something that they themselves sit down to approve of. Wait, hold up. Let me read this for a second. No, see, I don't think this makes a lot of sense. If I'm reading this correctly, I could be a little bit distracted, not gonna lie. And this guy's assuming the detractors of your criticism actually deep down agree with you. No, I don't think that's the case. I do believe they just don't care, as long as the game is fun enough. Which is the point. At the same time, some people are extremely tired of the likes of you, for obvious reasons, because you have been complaining about the stuff that doesn't matter in video games for, I was about to say the best part of a decade, it's way more than a decade at this point. So, they know your tricks, and they're sick of it. So no, it doesn't mean they actually agree with you, deep inside. It just means you're extremely annoying. Which is unsurprising. Just look at how divisive our creators has been. I haven't played it myself, but it has taken over the lives of just about every person in my friendship group. Is the game that good? I don't think it's for me. It's a game that also utilizes AI voices, built upon real voice actors, and with their contractual consent, so that the Embark doesn't need to have someone coming every time it creates a new item for the game. That's useful. Hey, that's useful. They did the work once, and they can just update with new items without having to rely on getting new voice clips, because they can just generate them with AI. I don't think it's that bad. Example given, not that bad. Something that, for the most part, people seem happy to deal with, even when things sound a little janky as a result. I mean, I don't know about Embark. Doesn't seem like a huge company anyway. Get real. As was brought earlier this year, the game is emblematic of how muddy the whole thing is. Sure, it's not generative AI in the broader sense, but it ultimately still very much sets up the potential to put these actors out of a repeat gig. I don't know about that, right? I don't know about that. Let's say you have Arc Raiders 2 with a newer story. I don't think it has like actual story. It's just an example. And they have the same characters, so they need the same voice acting. Do you think they're just gonna use AI for that? No. That's probably completely outside of the contract, even if they tried. Not even mentioning that probably the delivery from the AI would be really jank. If you're saying that's a little jank, sometimes when using short lines for new items, this would work. Not with current technology, at least. As was put it, much of the NES around AI is also simply about it putting people out of their jobs. Cry me a table, and if you're good enough, you will still have a job. Also, on top of that, sure, it's not generative AI, but I've seen people complaining about anything that has to do with AI, not even as a concept, just as a term, even if it's not actually accurate. A big example of this, I think I also mentioned on Thursday, it might have been last week, I'm not sure, how some people, derogatory, when talking about even older games, they were like, oh, AI. When the context was NPCs, characters controlled by the CPU who act on their own. Let's say, like, you had some sort of companion. I don't remember the game they were talking about. We could just say, Tales of Games. You control a single character because it's real-time combat, and you set the strategy for your allies. They act on their own. It's not actual AI. This is not even actual AI either. But they were bemoaning the AI. I'm like, no, if the example I gave last time, right? If you go back in time and play Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64, and you play the single player mode, you fight enemies, and the enemies move on their own. That's what they call AI. Also, the AI have levels? Yeah, that's what they mean. It's not the same. Some of these people are too worried, I'm afraid, about the terminology instead of what's actually going on. Not surprising. I know these types. The most annoying people on the internet. Many small jabs at Embark's methods among some of the bigger Arc Raider enjoys in my friend group, and having met with a bit of hostility in return. Counting these things out makes people uncomfortable and annoyed, and I get it. I don't like having the shit I enjoy called out for its issues either. Yes, but you're nagging. It's constant nagging. Wah. Shut up. You're so annoying. That's the problem. The criticism, in some cases, might be justified, but you're just annoying. It's endless. Stop it. I'm sick of this. But it's important. Amber has the money to get his voice actors back in the studio every 3 months to bend out a few lines, but it doesn't. You're getting mad in behalf of the voice actors that signed the contract that allows the company to use their voices to create new lines through AI. The myth of consent. What is going on? Activision more than has the money to hire real artists for its calling cards in Call of Duty, but 3 games released later and nothing has changed. Well, to be fair, Activision is not a good company anyway. So AI is just another way of showing you how extremely cheap they are. Are the games getting cheaper? Don't be stupid. Like I said, developers have been picking and choosing its smallest, least integral pockets to stuff AI into. And when you're a kid and you sneak one chocolate out of the box, people may not notice, and if they do, they probably don't care. It's one chocolate. But maybe, if nobody says anything, You can take a second chocolate, and the third. Before you know it, the box is empty. Okay, but this analogy doesn't really work. Because stuffing AI into games, it's not like a finite resource like the chocolates in a box. I know what he's trying to say, or she, I don't remember, with his nagging, either woman or gay, picture poison. Molly, it was a woman, imagine me shock. Constant nagging for women. Maybe the older generations were right. But it's a really bad comparison, even if I understand where she's coming from. Next year we have a very real chance of seeing the consequences for permissiveness. If plus screens become background art, character designs, or even paid cosmetics, developers pushing that bound out just a little bit more. From just one more chocolate from the box, in the house people continue to say nothing. Ultimately, it's our job to call this stuff out, discuss it online, vote with your wallet, and demand better. I guess voting with your wallet goes both ways, huh? Not wrong, not wrong, but at the same time, this is not the sickness, this is a symptom. Maybe a solution, to some extent. Yeah, I was looking finish this paragraph, and I can explain properly what I mean. In this game where thousands of people are losing their jobs, I'm not necessarily jealous to see the number increasing in favor of stuff slapped together by a computer. That's not happening because of AI, that's happening because of bloat. We've been talking about this for what, 2 years already? Yes. Too many cooks in the pot. And the cooks? Useless. So obviously the food is trash. I'm going to become incredibly annoying by having them buffing every time something that has and should be done by a human isn't? Yes. Unexpected. But I'd rather be the friend advocating for a human touch. The someone who's only asking when it's this way when it's too late. Because if we're not careful, video games are going to become very safe, very boring, and very inhuman. The audacity of saying this. The audacity of saying this when this has been happening for more than a decade. Games nowadays are extremely safe, extremely boring, and extremely inhuman. I don't think inhuman is the best word to say this, but it's the only opposite to humane or humanity I can come up with. Once again, I don't think I'm wrong. Blame me if you must, I know I'm right. But the problem here is not AI. The problem here is not AI itself, funny enough. AI is being used as a bandage of sorts. I'm not talking about game development, I'm talking about in general. When you have people saying maybe you need AI to create translations or to create dubbing and whatnot, that's not people saying AI is better than humans. Most sensible people, there are some deranged individuals outside, just don't worry about those. Most people would like a high quality product made by a human, because if it's high quality, made by a human, you expect, well, obviously quality, as I said, but you expect a specific care, right? The thing is, it's not happening. Not because humans are not that professional or that competent. Sometimes they are quite incompetent, to be fair. But also because they're extremely lazy or they're just doing whatever they want. Yes, this is mostly about translation, but it can be applied to everything in the grand scheme of things. So people are pushing for AI because what AI can make is not as bad compared to what these people make. This problem is mostly self-inflicted. And sure, I would agree that companies like Activision Blizzard here, not the paragon of good intentions, they will just use AI for everything they can, because they're extremely cheap. But I wouldn't say that's the norm. Thinking, but they're losing their jobs. They should have lost their jobs many years ago for being extremely incompetent. Not because of AI. This is just a bad solution to a stupid problem. It happens more often than you may think. Speaking of AI, what about AI toys, as mentioned before? I don't know what this is about. I just found this and I think it's gonna be extremely stupid. So let's take a look at this. AI toys are here, and their safety is questionable. Here's what parents should know. I mean, you tell me, AI toys, this is a teddy bear and this is like a rocket. I don't know. I don't think this poses a danger to society or kids. We'll see. As a writer who covers baby and kids gear, I'm inundated with emails about the hottest new toys. About that automatically prints pictures based on kids' commands. About robots with facial recognition capabilities. Ooh, yeah, that one's a little bit spicy. And to the bear that can craft endless unique stories in over 30 languages in response to child's prompts. Another bear that can converse with children, providing personalized replies in real time. Aside from all sounding intriguing, these new releases have something else in common. They're powered by AI. What? Do you expect the tiny Chinese guy there speaking? Ah, yes. Very good. No, that wouldn't make any sense. The AI toy trend. Oh, jeez, I'm spitting. Not spitting bars, just spitting normally. The AI toy trend, which has already taken off in China, is a $4 billion USD industry, and with over 1,500 companies making products in this space, scaling in fooding in the United States too. As a parent, my first thought that anytime you see a new toy in the market is it safe? Which is fair. So you notice AI toys becoming more abundant when your spider senses begin tingling, and for good reason. Let's see what kind of examples they give. I mean, that's kinda cool. Seems like a cool toy to have. I don't know if it's dangerous. Within just the last few weeks, the recently published 2025 Trouble in Toyland report from US Pirg warns against toys that feature AI chatbots. Yes, I wouldn't say AI chatbots are good for kids. We've seen too many stories with a grim ending. The non-profit Fair Play for Kids recently issued an advisory against these products that was signed by over 150 organizations and experts, and 2 US senators have queried prominent toy makers about the safety and privacy concerns AI-powered toys may present. After reviewing all of this reporting in detail, and speaking with numerous experts and testing several AI toys firsthand, I've come to a similar opinion. AI toys are just not ready for kids. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I do believe that's possible. What are AI toys? AI toys are new, and not really. The first rendition of a smart toy that paved the way for today's more advanced AI toys was Hello Barbie, which debuted in 2015. This interactive toy collected data about children to create increasingly personalized conversations. After a lot of controversy and backlash over adults that listen to kids talking at home, it was discontinued in 2017. This is not the one that also took pictures, was it? I do remember that being a big problem. There was like YouTube documentaries about this. Really strange stuff, that's for sure. Not something I would recommend for people get for the kids, for obvious reasons. Today, AI toys are much more advanced. To many of them look and feel like regular stuffies found in playrooms across America. They're really challenged disguised as playthings, but they range greatly in how they interact with kids, and as a result, the potential harm they may pose. I also see potential here, okay? Because you could have... it's kind of grim, still. Because I don't know the limitations of AI in this regard. Not my area of expertise. But you could potentially get a kid to have a greater lexicon and better communication skills thanks to the AI. But also the AI is really unreliable as a partner because it's not human. I mean, as long as this guy that's a toy could be better? I don't know. I'm just spitballing. The first experience testing an AI toy was a sticker box, a small red box that prints stickers based on kids' prompts. This product is designed to a slightly lesser extent than some other toys in the market. Like here's the Gabo, a toy tested by one of my colleges, with that to 2 young kids. With more sophisticated AI technology than sticker box, Gabo, and a silver encounters Gremlin Grog? And you should call him Grog? I should call him Grog. 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 I sho Yes, OpenAI is modeling, and that's its ability to have endless conversations. And there's much more where that came from. Other key players in that AI toy space include Mika 3, Playpop the AI Story Bear, in full toy AI Teddy Kuma, with two M's, not a single one, which is similarly advanced and interactive as the Gabo. Also has some concerns about legalities, right? Can they actually record minors within the constraints of the law? I'm not quite sure. Because they would need to store that information somewhere, and that would be potentially against some data laws, either in Europe or the US. Something interesting to think about. What are the dangers associated with them? Given the issues surrounding chatbots for adults, including data and privacy and mental health concerns. Not for red, I promise. It's not left to wonder how much more dangerous toys integrated with the same chatbots might be for kids. Some experts I spoke with have focusing exactly on this in their research. We're seeing all of these findings and new stories coming out about the destabilizing and potentially dangerous impacts of AI companions on adults. We read enough about those. Complains Rory Ehrlich, one of the authors of the Trouble in Toyland report. And there's other questions about, well, if we know that these things can be harmful for adults, what might the impacts be on kids? Probably not better, that's for sure. From the research and testing so far, it's clear that there's a diversity of considerations to keep in mind. From data privacy concerns to unpredictable and inappropriate responses. There are a lot of factors to consider before even thinking about purchasing an AI toy. Thus far, I think it's pretty reasonable concerning. Pretty reasonable concerns. Nothing wrong with that. If I think kids shouldn't be on the internet, or if I think kids shouldn't be using AI chatbots, yes, I also think that maybe they shouldn't be using these AI chatbots disguised as, I don't know, a bear. I think he has obvious problems, or potential problems. And predictable responses. Unlike most smart toys and other tech-heavy toys, which are programmed with certain boundaries, AI toys generate unique and wide-ranging content by design. They don't have a specific script to follow. Many of these devices claim to have filters, age ratings, parental controls, and other safeguards. These limitations still may not be enough for chatbots. I mean, you can always break the clunker. We've seen that time and time again. It's not really surprising. There's the danger that chatbots are going to go off the rails and say something really weird to your kid. They may also say, oh, I don't think your pants you said this. Ooh, yes. That's being spicy meatball. They may be a little bit too prudish in some regards, but I think concern with kids is always okay. This is Megan Leto Jones, a professor at Georgetown University and founding faculty of its Center for Digital Ethics. The Trouble in Thailand report found that even toys with purportedly ample controls did not nearly enough to combat age-inappropriate content being shared with kids. Isn't that borderline illegal? They weren't gonna say, oh, but it's AI, out of our control. No, you sell this as a product slash service. So no. When prompted to test as part of the report, engage in mature and even explicit conversations about sex and drugs. Another day in Roblox. Then this is where they find dangerous items like matches and knives, and tended to re-engage kids even when they said they want to be done playing. That's not good. Need to blow my nose. Give me a second. I wouldn't say the re-engaging part is that bad. But yeah, if they're getting into actual adult stuff, that's a big problem. Once again, I do believe borderline illegal, not good. Something like that, yes. I understand the concerns. I think they're justified. I would say more than justified. Also, now don't be a clown and let them roam freely on the internet, okay? Not like this. Anyone have experienced the unpredictability of AI toys when I tested the sticker box. Admittedly, my kids and I had a lot of fun with the toy, and my daughter even used it to create customized stickers for her teachers. However, at one point, it printed a picture of a naked woman holding a phallic object. After mistakenly thought what my kid said, "It's somebody's king" in French. What? How did that happen? That's really strange. Update. To the publication of this story, sticker box representatives said the company has implemented robust safeguards designed specifically for kids since my initial testing. I mean, sure, but this still seems pretty bad. Further testing after these changes continue to have worrying results, such as displaying explicit words on the device's screen and printing stickers in response to profane prompts. Can development concerns. And there are potential developmental risks, plain often called the work of the field. The work of the child. Of the field. what a attempt to misread something. It's where they truly learn, stretch their mental muscles and grow. But when kids interact with AI toys, they're not really engaging in true play, according to some experts. Not encouraging kids to imagine and be creative. These products are largely sources of passive entertainment. Too much toy and not enough kids, says Jones. It does all the work of play for the kid. Yeah, I guess that's fair. I do believe there's some potential here for kids, though. But obviously not like this. It's also worth noting, the way AI toys replace beneficial and meaningful play and activities, kids are missing out on cool experiences that help them develop. There's opportunity costs, adds Little Jones. If kids are passively engaging with chatbots as their primary activity, think about what they could be doing instead, such as spending time outside or burning their energy with physical play. Yeah, I think that makes sense. You need to push the kids, especially when they're really young, to move around, right? To do stuff. I think that makes sense. In this realm, chat-based AI toys may reduce crucial social skills too, and lead to social isolation because they encourage kids to interact with chatbot instead of with real people. They are sycophantic and isolating. And this is isolating because they are sycophantic, says Letter Jones. Is this Twitter? Hold up. These toys tell kids what they think they want to hear, and that's simply not how social interaction works in the real world. The thing is that what they want to hear isn't always what's best or what's safe. Just explain that kids need the discomfort that can come with engaging with peers and adults. You will not only miss out on those developmental moments, but you'll also minimize them. And this is probably my biggest gripe with AI. They tell you what you want to hear, not what's best, or not what's interesting. I don't like AI just because of that. Okay? If I'm gonna use AI, I don't need a yes man. I know I'm right. Okay? I know I'm right. Because you cannot tell me otherwise. Well, the AI would never push back, which is funny enough, I suppose. But I find it extremely boring. I just don't understand how people get so immersed with AI chatbots. Oh my god, it's my soulmate! That says a lot about you, and not about the AI. You might not have a soul, after all. Oops. I find it extremely boring. It's like having a servant, but in a really unfun way. Because where's the physical punishment, right? That's the fun part. Just whip them! I'm like, no. That's boring, that's annoying. Your AI is lame and gay. I will not fall for the psyop. Soon you will see me deep within the mountains, living like a goblin or a dwarf. I could dwarf Max, even though I'm not that short. I wouldn't say I'm short even, I'm just average. In addition to interfering with social development, these toys often intend to re-engage the user. Even when they make it clear they want to disengage. Chatbots have been shown to have addictive qualities, and this particular feature of AI toys may perpetuate the dangerous cycle. While doing research and testing for the Travel and Toyland report, Arnold found that Mako in particular attempted to keep kids playing with it by shivering physically in disappointment. Regularly encouraging kids to take the toy with them when trying to leave and playing videos to lure them back in. I've seen some people talking about this on social media. I don't know if that is true. I guess it makes some sense. Because apparently people to train their eyes have been using fear tactics for too long, or maybe far too long. So they ended up making AIs completely psychotic and extremely fearful. So they go on with emotional manipulation, so they don't be punished. And I'm like, I can see it to some extent, but at the same time, it's not actual fear. So it probably has a very reasonable fix. At the same time, we can also mention that that's a different from humans after all, but without the obvious biological upsides to all of this. Mentioning data privacy issues, I think this one is pretty obvious. Even though we can disagree to some extent with some of these laws. Of course, there are the related privacy risks too. Many parents are very careful about what information they share about their children online. In that regard, I have to say, going back to the beginning of the stream, something that I found really interesting for this was Shua Head's Merry Christmas tweet. So she took a picture with her kid, and they had AI make it into like a drawing, some sort of anime. Like, you know what? That's good. You can show the kid, and I will never know how the kid looks. That's great. That's for security to some extent. That's agreeable. Especially nowadays. You know, there's a lot of strange people outside. If we see more smart toys directed toward kids, we started to look at some of the concerns around data privacy and data collection, says Ehrlich. When your child is connected to the internet via chatbot, it's hard to know who has access to them, what kind of information they're collecting. Even if companies attempt to keep information private, they're collecting a lot of data about children that could be vulnerable in a leak or hack. I mean, this already happened with that photo-taking toy from back in the day. At the same time, I have to mention that this is extremely funny, because is there gonna be a legal push against all of this, or is it only gonna be social media? Because some of the dangers are literally the same. You need to be 16 plus to be on Twitter. Go back to your AI chatbot, child. For many of these companies, increased engagement is largely the point. As this industry expands, toy makers may collect more and more information to engage kids for longer and encourage parents to purchase a subscription to the product. Is this TikTok? Sounds like TikTok, but even worse. There could be an incentive for these companies to make products that are more engaging, to remember more about you. They're trying to be more like a friend, or even a best friend, explains Ehrlich. I think the business model is really worrying. We definitely need a lot of guardrails there to make sure that doesn't go too far, he warns. Look, I want to agree, at least a little bit, because it's kids. It's never gonna be just kids, is it? It's never just the kids. That's what worries me about articles such as this. The future of AI toys. So, will AI toys ever be safe for kids? According to the expert I spoke to, probably. Or at least they will get safer. Hey, wasn't that a guy in Final Fantasy VIII? I actually do think these are going to get a lot safer over the next year or two with these Jones. She still doesn't think there are good toys for the developmental considerations listed above and more. just urges the public not to let up on pressure on companies to make the toy safer. I mean, yeah, of course. It's really important that these companies are helping parents to set boundaries around the use of them. Arledge concurs. There definitely could be a way forward that is safe and appropriate, but it might not be totally clear yet what that is. What does seem clear is that even with all of the risks they currently pose, these toys aren't going anywhere. As an example, one of the popular AI toy manufacturers, Follow Toy, what a strange name! I would expect Hollow Toy, but Follow? Was really suspended after the Trouble in Toyland report found that it discussed sexually explicit topics and provided dangerous advice. Yeah, I do remember on TV shows fear-mongering about this in the 90s. Were they wrong? I'm not sure. However, its popular Titikumba toy was only off the shelves for a little over a week, and it's now available for purchase again. Surely it's fixed. Surely. And earlier, in 2025, Mattel, the maker of Barbie, Hot Wheels, and other popular toy brands, announced a collaboration with OpenAI to support AI-powered products and experiences based on Mattel's brands. With this partnership, while this partnership has, as of this week, been put on pause, and that was confirmed to Axios, developments like this could usher in a whole new wave of competitor items. We need to be watching this really closely, because it has the potential to take AI toys from niche industry, something that's on shelves in major retailers, that many more people are exposed to, and many more kids might want and have, says Ehrlich. You remember those robot dogs from back in the day? Never had one of those. I had normal dogs. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna be all that useful, all that great for those kids in general to have this. Anyway. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Hold up. Yeah, okay, alright. That's fine. I do believe if you're a parent, you should try to give the kids normal toys. That's what my sister is doing thus far, and I don't believe that's a good idea. For now and for the foreseeable future, I recommend proceeding with extreme caution when it comes to AI toys. If you do choose to purchase them for your kids, treat them like you would any other string or smart device. Carefully consider whether your kids are old enough, set time limits, and only allow your kids to use them under direct supervision. Funny enough, just giving them other video games, a better idea than these AI-powered messes that we see here. I expected this to be more stupid. I think this is actually quite a reasonable article, despite some of the fear-mongering. But I think it's within reason. Huh. I mean, I do believe that this thing has a lot of potential, right? It's kind of cool. You can color it. It's pretty nice. There were similar toys to this back in the day, but I think you have to create your own designs, which is also not bad either. Maybe creating your own designs is better, right? More creativity. Oh look, there's a pizza surfing with sunglasses. You just did yourself. Here, it's gonna be scuffed because you're a kid. Who cares? It's fun. Drawing is fun. Huh. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I'm a little bit curious, to say the least. Speaking of new technologies, or technologies in general, how about we get into disastrous consequences for the governments of the world? I don't think I have enough time to go through everything, but I wasn't counting on it anyway. So of course, fear-mongering about tech is nothing new. From Tech Radar, cutting apps like Signal or WhatsApp could be hostile activity, claims UK watchdog. You wouldn't download a car, and you wouldn't make a chatting app, would you? It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. The latest growth encryption in the UK. I wonder if they can actually win the tech race. I don't think they can, but we'll see. Developers of apps that use end-to-end encryption to protect private communications could be considered hostile actors in the UK. Oh, God forbid you didn't take a look at the And the message from your users, huh? What a strange thing to say. It's the UK government, so it's not surprising. This is the stark warning from Jonathan Hall, KC, the government's independent reviewer of state threats legislation. An independent reviewer of terrorism legislation in a new report on national security laws. Is this gonna be considered terrorism? Well, it wouldn't be surprising. The stabbings, that's normal if you're living in a big city. It's an independent review of the Counter-Terrorism and Border Security Act and the newly implemented National Security Act. All KC highlights the incredibly broad scope of powers granted to authorities. He warns that developers of apps like Signal and WhatsApp could technically fall within the legal definition of hostile activity, simply because their technology makes it more difficult for UK security and intelligence agencies to monitor your communications. What a strange thing to say. Oh no, you have privacy, and the government cannot take a look at you. You might be a terrorist. Okay, alright. Sure thing. You can call me Obama Bin Laden if you want. The way I'm bombing these apps. My goodness, this is awful. He writes, it is a reasonable assumption that this would be in the interests of a foreign state, even if the foreign state has never contemplated this potential advantage. But there are methods of communication that UK security and intelligence wouldn't be able to monitor anyway. Because, let's be real, using code words or code language has always been a thing, especially during wartime. Huh. I mean, I want to say, I wonder what they mean by this. We all know what they mean by this. Hello, it's me, the government. I want to take a look at your shit. Yeah, fuck off. The report also notes that journalists carrying confidential information, material personally embarrassing to the Prime Minister on the eve of important treaty negotiations, could face similar scrutiny. Look, I'm not a big fan of the journalists, but I hate the government more. I hate the government more than them. So, are the journalists justified with doing this? I think so. But it remains to be seen how this report will influence future amendments. It comes at a time of increasing pressure from lawmakers against encryption. It's funny. Well, it would be funny if it wasn't this sad. While the report's strong wording may come as a shock, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Encrypted apps are increasingly in the crosshairs of UK lawmakers, with several pieces of legislation targeting the technology. Most notably, Apple was served with a technical capability notice under the Investigatory Powers Act, IPA, demanding it weaken the encryption protecting iCloud data. Weaken your protection? It's funny to hear them saying that. Of course that's what they want, because they want to spy on you. They just want to spy. But they're just saying it. They are just saying it right now. The legal standoff led the tech giant to disable its advanced data protection instead of creating a backdoor. I mean, it's not as bad, but it's still kinda bad. The only safety ant is already well known for its controversial age verification requirements. However, its most contentious provisions have yet to be fully implemented, and experts fear this could undermine encryption even further. Could? It's not a could. It's a will. Because that's what they want. The objective of a system is what it does. So if they're fucking your security, it's not a byproduct. It's by design. On Monday, Parliament debated the act following a petition calling for its repeal. Instead of rolling back the law, however, MPs pushed for a stricter enforcement. The audacity, that's crazy. The discussion, lawmakers specifically called for a review of other encrypted tools, like the best VPNs. You can just use code Ibaraki for 0% off on Proton VPN. Not sponsored. I don't think they have codes anyway. I wouldn't know. Yeah, it'd be funny. It'd be funny if it did. The potential risks of the Act's tougher stance on encryption were only briefly mentioned during the discussion, suggesting a stark disconnect between MPs and security experts. Yes, there's a stark disconnect, because security experts want security, or at least push for the security, which is good. The MPs want more control from the government, which is not good. Olivier Copin-Lebrand, I think, of the Internet Society, told Tech Trader he was disappointed by the outcome of the debate when it came to client-side scanning. Most felt this could be one of the easy technological fixes that could help law enforcement really, especially when they showed their frustration at Facebook rolling end-to-end encryption. He said, "Oh, nobody can spy what they're talking about. Ah, what a shame." Huh. It's legal hacking, so it's fine. It's clearly not understood that any such software could fall prey to hackers. I mean, I think he means the backdoors from the government. And obviously so, right? When we talked about the digital ID, I said they're casually 10 to 15 years behind, tech-wise. 1 week later, did you know they were actually hacked twice? No way! I thought it was safe and effective. Just 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. Still, for many lawmakers, encryption is viewed primarily as an obstacle to law enforcement. This stands in sharp contrast to the view of digital rights experts, who stress that the technology is vital for protecting privacy and security in an online landscape where cyber attacks are rising. Also, encryption is not an obstacle to law enforcement, because privacy is not an obstacle to law enforcement. If you want to enforce the law, if you want to search a home and whatnot, usually you need an official document, a warrant, as they say. So it wouldn't be different. They just want to ignore the law because it's the funny technology, it's the internet. Nobody cares about that. Well, I'm not so sure. The government same pose end-to-end encryption as a threat, but what they fail to consider is that breaking it would be a threat to our national security too. A bigger one of that. Maybe they understand, and they don't really care. Jemima Stainfield, CEO of Index on Censorship, told Tech Trader. She also added that this ignores encryption's vital role for dissidents, journalists, and domestic abuse victims. Not to mention the general population who should be afforded basic privacy. You fool! You fool! Oh, brother. It's done on purpose. They don't want dissidents, they don't want journalists that they're not on their side. And they never cared about domestic abuse victims. They never cared about victims anyway. The rape epidemic in the UK. But you cannot talk about that. Why? They might be too wrong. They might be too wrong. If only they were white. I'm curious. Well, the bottom line is wrong. We can expect a challenging year ahead for services like Signal and WhatsApp, but companies have previously pledged to leave the UK market rather than compromise their users' privacy and security, which makes sense. Also, every single time we have to question, how is this possible that these fuck-ass countries from Europe or the European Union or whatever you want to say are using the power of the law to fuck over companies from outside? Because I don't think WhatsApp and Signal are British companies. So, these governments are about to find out that they don't really hold that much power. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Hold up. My ears are so itchy lately, I don't know why. Itchy tasty, man, itchy tasty. But speaking of the government being really strange with this sort of stuff, I mean, from the UK to Australia, the difference is not that big. I found a clip the other day. There's an article It's really strange how they're just saying things now. They're just saying things. I'm like, okay. Do you hear yourself when you speak? I don't think they do, or I just don't think they care, which is really funny. And it's from the Telegraph, in archive, because it's pay to win. Sean Thomas, elite thought, free speech will have to go to preserve multiculturalism. One Australian politician has said the quiet part out loud. What a strange thing to say! Why would you say something like this? How curious! I thought this was not a thing. Soon after the premiere, I thought they were gonna say prime, of New South Wales, it's always New South Wales. What is going on in this region? There's something that changes the political debate in the UK and elsewhere. But so it is this week, following the awful carnage of Bondi Beach. New South Wales Premier Chris Means give a pat. I'm struggling so much more than usual. It's on purpose. I think I'm somewhat distracted. Give a press conference about new legal restrictions on his speech and said this. New legal restrictions on his speech. God damn it. Next year, 1984, my favorite. I acknowledge that we don't have the same free speech rules they have in the United States, and I make no apologies for that. We have got the responsibility to knit together our community, together from different races and religions. We don't have the same free speech rules that they have in the US. Yes, because you don't have free speech. You can have kinda free speech. It's either free speech or not free speech. Freedom is absolute, okay? Holy shit, if I told you it was from Texas, you will believe me, despite me not having the correct accent. But I'm not. I've never been to the US. Nor was this one off. He has said exactly this before, several times. Perhaps the most vitally, it's not worthy to see often. I don't know how to say this. In March, when he phrased it as, I fully said from the beginning that we don't have the same freedom of speech laws that they have in the United States. And the reason for that is we want to hold together a multicultural community. Call me a racist if you must, but this is a bomb waiting to explode, and it might be quite a literal bomb. You're trying to force your population to become a multicultural mess, and instead of addressing the grievances that your population has with such change, you're telling them, no, you cannot say anything, you cannot criticize this. Most of these conflicts don't come from people being so hateful. They hate anybody that's different than them. There's some people like that, obviously. But nowadays, it's probably the common pattern of why are these immigrants killing us? I mean, self-preservation is a great trait to have, in my opinion. So of course they have to worry about the future, and not so distant future at that. Once again, they just mentioned here the carnage on Bondi Beach. 2 shooters that were just immigrants. But they got stopped by another immigrant. Yes, and nothing would have happened if any of them were in their own countries. That's the main problem. So, you're creating here like a teapot, right? A teapot is a bad example. A pressure cooker. They cannot even air out their grievances by speaking about that because you're making it illegal. That's not gonna make the conflicts disappear. They're only going to escalate. And when people get fed up, you will be like, oh no! How did that happen? I didn't know this could happen! Because you made it illegal for people to talk about this. I think killing is bad, hot take, but it's gonna come a point where populations on the Western world, and Australia counts as a Western country, of course, I can say, you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm sick of this. And if I'm a little bit lucky, I will feel some schadenfreude. It's not good, but you cannot stop the feelings. Such a startling admission that I confess. When you first heard it, you did that meme where you guys blinked twice and be surprised. Because of course, what Premier memes came right out and said is what many people across the free-speaking Western world have suspected for a long time. I mean, suspected is a little bit generous, I think people just know. The powers that being Australia, the UK and the EU, and some parts of the US too, sadly, believe you can have multiculturalism and you can have free speech, but not both. And since multiculturalism must always come first, it is free speech that must yield, wither and ultimately die. Nah, I think this guy is wrong. I don't think the powers that can be believe that you can have free speech. Free speech is really dangerous for them. What do you mean you can criticize them? Oh, that seems really dangerous. Maybe that shouldn't be allowed. Maybe that shouldn't be allowed. Thing is, you cannot stop the feelings. Before we come to that startling revelation, however, we need to address Min's references to America, because they are quite bizarre. America is, of course, a very multicultural country. Is it though? Is it really? Indeed, it's arguably the epitome of the multicultural country. They have a phrase for it, the American melting pot. People hate this expression, because you cannot have proper society if it's just a multicultural mess. Let's be real. They wrote on the Statue of Liberty, give me you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses, you need to breathe free. And they really mean it. At least most of the time. Then we talk about how most of the problems in the US come from being a multicultural mess. Oh, we don't. I'm not quite well versed into these matters, these ins and outs of American politics. I do find it fascinating because it's usually something that can happen here, and if it can happen here and it's stupid, it will probably happen here. But that is strange stuff with Minnesota having a huge Somali diaspora to such an extent that politicians have to appeal to ancient grievances from ancient Somalia to win the elections in Minnesota while being mayors. And that's not even me going into the depths of the corruption. How American taxpayers are paying for both sides of civil war in Somalia. It's that meme. Rockets from one side, my taxpayers. Rockets from the other side, somehow, also my taxpayer money. Two Afghan gays having sex, also my taxpayer money. It's a meme for a reason. Meanwhile, America is also the land of free speech. It's their First Amendment to their sacred constitution, and they really mean that as well. They're trying to limit it constantly, and I don't think it's good. So what was Means really hinting at in his news conferences? What is it about the mix of multiculturalism and free speech in America that is so toxic? It must not be reproduced elsewhere. Racism. You cannot mention how some traits come from specific groups of people. That may be seen as a big no-no. Jesus Christ, I'm spitting on my screen. It's not on purpose. Maybe get it too passionate. That means feels that America is in some ways a failed state. The audacity. This coming from Australia. If I have news for the Premier of New South Wales. I spent several months in the USA over the last 2 years, from the poorest states, Mississippi and Kentucky, to the richest, California and Connecticut. I've followed many problems, guns, drugs, political divisions. Guns are not a problem by themselves, but sure. The USA has a cultural energy and scientific dynamism that makes us truly look like a dismal backwater. And opulence and wealth that will make any European wincing envy, except perhaps the Swiss. The Swiss do have a lot of money. there's a massive difference between this multicultural mess and the USA. The USA has always been a country, okay? A single country. It's been a country for almost 250 years, which is not that long compared to other regions of the old world. But the thing is, you always have, and I hate to use this terminology, a diverse population in the country, for better or for worse. But of course you had the colonizers from Europe, you also had slaves from Africa that ended up being freed and they became citizens, and you had some other people from either Native Americans or other people from other parts of the American continents. Later you will also have like Chinese slaves. There were also Irish slaves, by the way. They were the cheapest. Did you know that? That's funny. But it was always born within the values. A nation that was born within its specific values. That's why they separated from the UK way back in the day. The problem is, and I'm not mentioning here Australia because it's also kind of a new country in that regard. But in Europe, you have societies, cultures, and whatnot in Europe for thousands of years. The Roman Empire! The Roman Empire! Sure, the Roman Empire is cool. What about ancient Greece? And before the Roman Empire was expanded across the Mediterranean, you had a bunch of different tribes that had their own cultures, their own rights, and they were more advanced than some tribes even to this day. Funny enough, right? Because you had the Gauls, you had the Germanic tribes, you had Carthage and Egypt, of course, you had the Iberians, you had the Britons, and they had their societies. And some of these countries, what we know nowadays as these countries, are shaped by thousands of years of history and bloodshed, because people in Europe have been killing each other for as long as they've been alive. And nowadays, you need to tell them, no, but multiculturalism has always been a part of your society. And you're like, a part of what? British society, which has been 90-something% plus white British until the 1900s? No, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. You're forcing people from outside into a culture where they don't belong. Whereas American culture, North American culture, the USA, is a new permutation of Christian European values. It shouldn't be so difficult to understand. This is why also the EU will never work. Europe is my country. It's not a country. It's not a country, okay? People in Europe have been killing each other for way too long. The last big time that this happened was in the 90s with the fucking Balkans. Because the old Yugoslavia was a little bit too big and they were perhaps too at odds. Surely that was a good idea. Come on, man, come on. Stop being stupid for 5 fucking seconds. But it's not about the stupidity. They're just evil. They're just this evil. They hate you because you're too dangerous. That's the main problem. Establishments move on to the second, more sinister implications of Miss words, which constitute a remarkable, if inadvertent, admission. Liberal politicians across the West, excluding the USA, believe free speech and multiculturalism cannot coexist. Why? They claim it is to prevent apocalyptic racism as races intermingle, but again, America shows this is nonsense. Sure, there are no racial problems in the Americas. Come on, fuck off. I just explained this point. I don't need to go over this again. It's not gonna work, especially when you have in Europe countries being at odds with each other. Fuck the French. Fuck the Poles. Fuck the Germans. Fuck the English. Fuck all of them. That's neighbors against neighbors, because they have been fighting for thousands of years. And now you're trying to tell them, no, you're literally the same. Not only you're literally the same, you're the same as these insane criminals they're bringing from Africa. No wonder people are going crazy. No wonder I'm crashing out week after week. It's so stupid. Now, what alarms me is, and he's king in London, Brussels, is that multiculturalism, the idea that different races, creeds, and cultures can live happily and peaceably in the same place, is a sadly failing project. Yes, it was a noble idea. It was not a noble idea. But it's not working us out. Years ago, politicians as mainstream as David Cameron and Angela Merkel admitted this in exactly these words, that they probably would not now. What's more, the feelings of multiculturalism seem to be getting worse and spreading, as Bonding really illustrates. Because these people do not want to adapt to the West. They don't. They come here to conquer. You fucking idiots. And then they don't even have to wage actual war. You're giving them billions of money every single year for them to fucking displace you. Say what I mean. Say what I mean. Do you understand now why I find everything to be extremely stupid in real life? Of course it is. That's where the irresistible force of fact, the feelings of multiculturalism, is the immovable object of faith for many in the West, particularly within the liberal elite. I like that you're mentioning liberal elite and their faith in the same part. Multiculturalism has become a secular religion, a credo for the credulous. And you can say it in Min's news conferences. He looks like a shiny-eyed preacher trying to steady the congregation at a moment of doubt. What do religions do when threatened? They invoke heresy. You cannot say words that question the faith. Anyone who does must be punished, denounced, and gagged with the online safety acts, and may be given 18 months in jail from anti-immigration post viewed 33 times. But if you go around stabbing people, as long as you're wrong, it's fine. When they look at us, our rulers don't see voters. They see millions of potential unbelievers who must be menaced into silence. They see millions of potential serfs. That's what they want. They feel threatened by the common people because they don't really have a lot of quality. That's their main problem, their main fear. Because they're just a bunch of bitches at the end of the day. So, we'll just stop the music for a second. We have a short clip that pretty much illustrates my current state of mind. Despite not being mine, but it shows. It shows. It's a post that been going kind of viral this past week from Anthony, even though it's the original guy from this one. Might be the greatest clip I've ever seen. It's about 2 minutes. It's insanity.
You've said things like black women are biologically different than white women.
Yes, they have different fertility windows. They have a higher rate of fertility complications, 50%
But there's
higher
no
rate.
scientific evidence to prove that a black woman and a white woman are genetically different, right?
There's no scientific way of telling that black women and white women are genetically different. This is modern society.
This is like
What are you talking
no, they are.
This is
about?
according,
Yeah.
no,
But literally, there are genes that code for their skin color.
What-
There are genes that
again, this is like government data. This is
This is government data. Are we sure? I don't think so.
right? This is the National Institute of Health. This is the American Medical Association. Like there is no scientific evidence to prove that.
And that's a
different
big
races-
problem.
I think this is a massive lie. Even what she's saying, it is a lie, because as we've seen, when they talk to you about the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion, of course you need black doctors to treat black people. Well, no. If you have black populations, like in the USA, they have special considerations for their health. Maybe they're more prone to diabetes, for example. It is something that the doctors need to know. But being black doesn't give you a superpower for that. And if they're more prone to these sicknesses, it's gotta be genetic, man. It's because they're black. Right? It's how white people can tolerate lactose. What are we saying here? So the problem I have with these people, everything has to be a deconstruction. And since you can use the genetic argument about race for behavioral traits, you cannot see any difference in genetics. There cannot be any single difference in genetics for people because it can be used for evil, even though it's important to actually treat these people health-wise. It is insanity.
Right,
No,
because
no,
a lot of
hang on. No, there's no
and-
scientific
and that's
evidence
why
about
I
things
asked.
like IQ differences. Black people are genetically different from other populations.
And I'll say that
Yeah.
again. There's
They're genetically different, and that's okay. The guy's not even saying it's a problem. The guy is even saying there's a difference here, an important difference for health-related issues that is not being addressed. While trying to be the most anti-racist possible, you're actually doing a disservice to people of different races because you need to recognize the differences when they actually matter, right? It was the same argument they used for people in wheelchairs. They're different from you and I. Well, I don't know if other people that may or may not watch me have to use wheelchairs. If so, I'm sorry. I don't need to use a wheelchair. I'm an able-bodied male. But that doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean they are oppressed or anything. They're suffering. They're suffering from something specific, and you need to address it. You cannot treat them the same. Oh, let's go jog through the beach. What are you doing? Who's the bitch here? Right? No, they're still deserve respect, but they do have special considerations because of their specific context, health context in this case.
there is at least there is no scientific evidence to prove that, right? And as people
No,
that
I'm sorry. I'm stating. Do you want to ask an AI if there's scientific evidence to prove
no,
that?
I want to ask.
No,
this
because
is,
Asking the AI is a little bit silly here. I know what he's trying to say, but maybe it's not the best point.
what you're
Really based
stating
on
is just factually incorrect. Humans are genetically diverse. It's not a bad thing that humans
I'm not
are
saying it's
genetically
ever, no,
diverse.
I'm not saying it's a bad or a good thing. I'm saying there is no.
I'm not saying it's a bad or good thing. I'm just saying it doesn't exist. Because if it exists, it can be used for evil. She's not saying that. I'm just finishing her sentence because she would never say that. I don't even know if she understands what she's trying to say.
Scientific evidence.
And
right?
I'm saying that is a factually.
he's saying that there is scientific
There
evidence.
is scientific evidence. There is
Based
overwhelming
on-
scientific
based
evidence.
on-
It is
and
the
this is-
basics. No. This is like saying the sky is not blue. Like, it is genes that code their skin color, right? Those genes are obviously different in them than they are in us. How is that not science? That's just like a basic fact. The genes that code their skin color, their level of melanin production, are different from my genes that
And I
code
think,
melanin production.
and that's precisely why I was asking this question, because I think for some people that do believe like you,
Some people that do believe, by the way, observable fact, but you believe it. It's insane.
that people are genetically different, that has historically been used to promote racial hierarchies, right?
And that's the whole point. Even though it's actually factually true, and it's important for what this guy was trying to say about health, you cannot notice it because it could be used for evil.
And that's why I'm asking you, because
But so what
because you
makes
do
It's insane. This is the current state of affairs. It's truly insane to me. Hey, Star Ocean. That's cool. This is the kind of people we have to contend with every single time. I'm not saying this as if these people can be fixed. I don't think so. Because you have two possible individuals in this case. You have probably this woman being an ignorant pawn. She doesn't understand what she's saying. She's just repeating stuff because it makes me feel good. She's just ignorant. And she's repeating stuff. Because she was told so. And then you have evil people that are spouting this nonsense because they have an agenda in mind. There's no way to fix this. There's no way to fix this. So, at least, let me finish for today. We're going a little bit over time, but I think it's okay. we can finish for today with a funny article. I think we all deserve it. To end the year on a high note, or at least a funny note. From the New York Post. How big a looking butt could be a sneaky sign of autism and ADHD? Guys, I need to ask. Let's see, you get with a girl. Big booty. Autism. Do we call this a win-win situation or what? Do we call it a win-win situation or what? Believe it or not, your backside might reveal a thing or two about your brain. Neurodevelopmental disorders like autism and ADHD often share symptoms, including challenges with social situations, staying focused, and managing emotions. But research suggests there could be a surprising clue hiding your rear view. A prominent tush. Ah, tush? What a fun word. You don't see that a lot. I like it. Come on. Is this a guy? That's a guy. We don't want to see that. This issue isn't about genetics or body shape. Instead, it's often linked to a common postural issue called an anterior pelvic tilt. Oh. A little bit less exciting than what I was expecting. With this condition, the front of the pelvis tilts forward instead of staying neutral, causing the lower back to curve inward more than normal. The result? Embelder sticks out and gluster protrude, creating what some people call a duck butt. For the duck face! Hey, this is 2013, right? Almost. While anyone can have an anterior pelvic tilt, it's common in children with autism or ADHD. I think it's clear I don't have autism or ADHD. My eyes kind of flat. I'm sorry to disappoint. Despite me exercising a lot, it's kind of flat. Whoops! Thankfully I'm not a woman, I suppose. Across the US, an estimated 1 in 31 children aged 8 and older has been diagnosed with autism. A wide-ranging condition affecting learning, behavior, communication, and social interaction. If you're on TikTok, it might be like 27 out of 31. Self-diagnosis, I hate that. In 2022, about 1 in 9 US children aged 3 to 17 at some point received the diagnosis of ADHD. Developmental disorder that impacts attention, focus, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. Back in my day, these were just active kids, okay? And thankfully, my sister grew up when she did, and it was not the US. She would be heavily medicated otherwise. There's nothing wrong with being active, okay? Sometimes just people having a lot of energy they need to burn first. I think that's fine. That's not a problem, in my opinion. It actually mellows down a little bit with age, from what I've seen. Probably not everybody. Why some of these kids tend to develop anterior pelvic tilt is because they often have low muscle tone, which can leave the core and glutes too weak to keep the pelvis properly aligned. Oh, that couldn't be me, man. Oh, what do you mean low muscle tone? Oh, I would be a menace with hand tracking. An absolute menace. I don't know if it's too expensive or not. I'm going to look into that. It could be funny to do, at least sometimes. Sitting for long periods or repeated movements like toe walking can also tighten their hip flexors and lower back, pushing the pelvis even further out of position. See, another sign I don't have autism. Toe walking? I do that sometimes, but on purpose, right? I found at some point that strange movements with the front of your feet can improve your efficiency while moving. You can move faster without spending more energy, which is nice. But every single time I've broken my shoes was either the sole just collapsing on its own, or the talon part. Yeah, literally the opposite. On top of that, many children with autism or ADHD struggle with balance, coordination, and body awareness, making it even harder to maintain proper posture while standing or moving. I mean, I was never good with bikes and whatnot, but I would say my coordination and balance are pretty okay, nowadays way above average. Taken together, these challenges can lead to a range of postural differences, including important jutting head, rounded shoulders, and a tilted pelvis. I'm trying to justify myself as not autistic, okay? It's just a common perception of specific types of streamers, especially tubas, always being autistic. No, I'm just I'm just strange. Which I guess is good enough. Or maybe not, I wouldn't know. Among standard researchers used 3D motion analysis to compare walking patterns and found that school-aged children with autism tend to walk with a more forward-tilted pelvis than the typical developing peers. Interesting. I mean, if you have a fat ass, that doesn't mean you have autism, okay? But if you're a girl, call me, okay? It's a joke, it's a joke, it's a garbage joke. Never call me. I don't like people. These children also didn't push off with their ankles strongly when walking, and their hips were bent more forward than usual. I would need to see an image for that. I cannot picture that on my mind at this point. In another study, researchers found that boys with ADHD and anterior pelvic angle that was on average 4.5 degrees higher than children without the condition. The results suggest that anterior pelvic angle represents a specific gait. Gait? That's a word you see a lot. This is French, right? Very well related to ADHD symptoms, the others wrote. While anterior pelvic tilt isn't a problem for everyone, it can sometimes cause pain in the lower back, hips, and knees because of right movement, including balance and speed. The good news is that the exercises that stretch the hip flexors, strengthen the glutes, hamstrings and core, bridges, planks, leg lifts, and wall sits, can help keep the pelvis properly aligned. That's pretty good. Speaking of planks, it has nothing to do with this, but I thought it was interesting. I used to do planks a lot. Back in the day, it's been quite some time. And I still retain some of that strength. Yesterday, I was doing my exercises, and this week has been a little bit all over the place. So, instead of having my push-ups on Tuesday, it was actually yesterday, so it was a little bit weird. But it was really cold, so I attempted to do the push-ups while still wearing my socks. I was gliding all over the place. And it felt more like doing planks than actual push-ups. I did my usual number of push-ups anyway, but I was really feeling it in the abs. People need to know. I say that working with a physical or occupational therapist can help make these exercises fun for children with autism or ADHD, also tailoring them to specific needs, such as sensory sensitivities. Well, I guess it was pretty Nicki Minaj. She autistic? I wouldn't know. This article's title is itself sneaking deceptive. I mean, come on, it's... Of course, it's correlation, not causality. But since it's interesting correlation, it can be used to detect autism, which is okay, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with that, come on. No need to get so PC about it. Anyway. Yeah, it's time for me to take my leave. So now you might be wondering, okay, what's the deal next week? Well, next week is gonna be pretty similar to this week. Because, yeah, didn't come to me on Wednesday. It's New Year's Eve, so it's gonna be family stuff once again. Doesn't happen a lot, but happens sometimes, right? So we're gonna have stream on Monday, Yakuza 3. It should be finale. We're gonna have a stream on Thursday. It's not gonna be just games, it's gonna be some sort of completely disjointed New Year's Day. We're gonna have some games, but we're gonna have a little bit of everything. We're gonna be fishing, okay? We're gonna be doing a little bit of fishing. Except for that, we'll see what we feel. We may get into a couple of articles if I find them to be topical. We may get into, like, strange tests on the internet or tier lists. We'll see, that kind of stuff. We'll get to some games, of course. We'll get to some games. It's gonna be how we feel about the year, how things are progressing and what's to come. And of course, on Saturday the 3rd, the first Japanese session of the year. You love to see it. Oh man. So, it's gonna be it for me from today. Thank you for coming. Hope you had some fun. I do enjoy talking about this stuff. I know it's safe for some, but it is important to talk about what the hell is going on with the world. Because I do want things to be good. despite what some people might believe. I do want things to be good, and if you want things to be better, you need to understand how they are broken. And they are really broken, especially in the West, especially nowadays. How do we fix them? I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to get the information first, and then we say what we can do. So thank you for coming. Hope you had some fun. Coming back on Monday for Yakuza 3. I will try for that to be the finale. I've been trying to get some gear. It's being a disaster. I don't like the Colosseum. Fighting is actually junk in the game. Ugh. Until then, the another rules. If a chick catches you while looking at her ass, and she thinks you're a pervert, just tell her, I was wondering if you might have ADHD or autism. And take care.